Monday's annual media day at Casilla Center will mark the end of another Miami Heat offseason. It will also mark the end of an offseason that Heat general manager Andy Ellisburg will never forget. What began as an infection in Ellisburg's foot late last season turned into much more a few weeks later, as he spent nearly all of May at Baptist Health Doctors Hospital in Coral Gables after going through multiple surgeries to resolve infections in his foot, back, and knee that threatened various vital organs. "I was pretty sick," Ellisburg, 58, said. "I've been told this since, but I really wasn't aware of it at the time. If I waited another few hours or a day or so, there might be a whole different story here. I made it out." Ellisburg made it out and is expected to be with the Heat for training camp practices at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton this week, but he's endured a lot to get to this point. "When we got to the hospital, I was a mess," recalls Ellisburg, who is a Heat original employee of 37 years. "I've got an infection in my foot, an infection in my back, infection in my knee, infections throughout my body. It's affecting my liver, affecting my kidneys. My kidney level was basically at dialysis level. There were a lot of things that were really wrong, and they began a bunch of surgeries. As a result, Ellisburg needing to have a part of one foot amputated and was." Monday's annual media day at Casilla Center will mark the end of another Miami Heat offseason. It will also mark the end of an offseason that Heat general manager Andy Ellisburg will never forget. What began as an infection in Ellisburg's foot late last season turned into much more a few weeks later, as he spent nearly all of May at Baptist Health Doctors Hospital in Coral Gables after going through multiple surgeries to resolve infections in his foot, back, and knee that threatened various vital organs. "I was pretty sick," Ellisburg, 58, said. "I've been told this since, but I really wasn't aware of it at the time. If I waited another few hours or a day or so, there might be a whole different story here. I made it out." Ellisburg made it out and is expected to be with the Heat for training camp practices at Florida Atlantic University in Boca Raton this week, but he's endured a lot to get to this point. "When we got to the hospital, I was a mess," recalls Ellisburg, who is a Heat original employee of 37 years. "I've got an infection in my foot, an infection in my back, infection in my knee, infections throughout my body. It's affecting my liver, affecting my kidneys. My kidney level was basically at dialysis level. There were a lot of things that were really wrong, and they began a bunch of surgeries. As a result, Ellisburg needing to have a part of one foot amputated and was bedridden for a month. For the first time in a long time, Ellisburg needed to put his work as Heat general manager on hold. Others in the front office, like Heat president Pat Riley, assistant general manager Adam Simon, and senior director of basketball operations Dave Baer, took on more responsibilities to fill in for Ellisburg during the early stages of the offseason. "When I first got sick, Mickey Arison, Nick Arison, and Pat were basically like, 'Andy, do not worry about your job one bit. You have to focus on your health. Do not worry about work. Do not worry about anything that's going on. We will absorb whatever we need to absorb here. You need to take care of yourself, and you need to take care of your health.' For the most part, when I was at the hospital, that's what I did." After nearly a month in the hospital, Ellisburg had made enough progress to be transferred to Christine E. Lynn Rehabilitation Center in Miami to begin the next stage of his recovery. While spending almost 2 months at the rehabilitation center, Ellisburg only then started getting back to work by making some calls to prepare for the NBA draft in June. "There's only so much television I can watch. There's only so much I can sleep," Ellisburg said with a laugh. "I'm like, I need to do something to keep my brain going. Now we're starting to get a little closer to the draft, so I started making some draft phone calls and checking with my teams." Ellisburg was even allowed to leave the rehabilitation center for a few hours to join the rest of the Heat's front office at Casilla Center for the first round of the NBA draft on June 25th. "I'll never forget," one of the therapists said, "You look happier coming to work than most people do when they go home," Ellisburg said. "Anybody that knows me, that's not a surprising statement. The fact that I had a 2 p.m. physical therapy session and I pushed the trade call to 3:30 p.m. So we did my 2 p.m. therapy." It wasn't until the middle of July that Ellisburg was allowed to return home. But Ellisburg remains in a wheelchair and still has physical therapy sessions to go through 4 to 6 days per week. The goal is to be able to walk on his own again one day. It's a slow process. It's slow, said Ellisburg, who is known as one of the most knowledgeable figures in the NBA regarding the complexities in dealing with the league's salary cap rules. That's where I sort of mentally had to get to a place that this was going to take a long time. They've been honest with me, but no one has said I can't get back to where I was or whatever that looks like, get back to walking. So I'm going with the notion that I can walk. So I approach each of these things that I do, even those that I'm not particularly fond of, I approach with the notion that this is what I need to do, walk. This is what I have to do, walk. This is what I have to do to get my life back. I want my life back. That has been Ellisburg's approach and will continue to be his approach. It doesn't matter if it's right. It doesn't matter if it's wrong. It doesn't matter if it's fair, he continued. I'm here. What do I have to do to move forward? What do I have to do to move forward? What do I have to do to move forward? It is what it is and you're here, and not spend a lot of time feeling sorry for yourself because it's not going to change where I'm at, and it's not going to change the circumstance. Ellisburg is usually a regular on Heat road trips, serving as the team executive who's on most trips. But he doesn't expect to travel this year in the wake of his off-season health issues. However, Ellisburg is planning to be at most Heat games and practices that take place at Casilla Center this season. I'm approaching this year as if I'm not going to travel, Ellisburg said. It's not in the cards. Ellisburg can't tell his story, though, without thanking those who stood by his side and helped him over the last few months. The other thing I would add to it is how eternally grateful I am for all the people who helped me get to where I am, he emphasized. The people who came to the hospital, my friend Margie, who was there every day. My parents who came to the hospital constantly, even if at one point in time my dad was also at the rehabilitation center because he needed his own rehab. So my mom was going from room to room. To the people at the hospital, the doctors and the nurses and the therapists there who saved my life, quite honestly. Ellisburg views the new NBA season as the start of the next chapter. After all that he's endured this offseason, he's hopeful better days are ahead. This is obviously not what I wanted, he said. I can certainly say it's unfair. But I'm also very, very lucky in the life I lead. I'm very, very lucky that I'm doing something I enjoy. I'm very, very excited that another season is getting ready to begin. I'm looking forward to another season and being part of that. I've got a pretty good life. There is a turning of the chapter, and it's off to the next adventure. For me now, my next adventure is getting myself up and walking. I've gotten to this place. Now, that's the next step. In the world of professional basketball, player development can often be a roller coaster ride. For DaVon Mitchell, the journey from a promising prospect at Baylor to a first-round pick by the Sacramento Kings was marked by a glaring question. Could he extend his shooting range to the NBA three-point line? Early in his career, the answer was discouraging. Struggles with shooting scouting reports consistently highlighted Mitchell's tenacity on defense, yet his shooting left much to be desired. In his first 2 seasons with the Kings, he managed a mere 32% from beyond the arc, a statistic that raised concerns about his viability as a consistent scoring threat. While his defensive prowess was undeniable, it became evident that Mitchell needed to refine his shooting if he wanted to cement his place in the league. Following a brief tenure with the Toronto Raptors, Mitchell found himself traded to the Miami Heat midseason, a move that would prove pivotal for his career. In Miami, something clicked. A new chapter in Miami. With the Heat, Mitchell's shooting transformed dramatically. Although he averaged only 3.1 three-point attempts per game, he shot an impressive 44.7% over 30 games. His newfound ability to knock down shots in critical moments mirrored the prowess of elite shooters in the league. NBA analyst David Thorpe shared insights from his observations during a summer pickup game in Los Angeles, stating, "I saw DaVon in LA this summer playing pickup. His shot looked great. I think he's figured out how to shoot. So, just by being a shooter and then an ace defender, he's a net positive player for them." A strategic investment. The Miami Heat recognized Mitchell's potential and made a significant commitment by signing him to a 2-year, $24 million contract. This investment signals the team's confidence in his abilities to not only maintain his shooting efficiency, but also to enhance their offensive strategy. As Mitchell steps into the role of a starter, at least until Tyler Herro recovers from ankle surgery, he will benefit from playing alongside sharpshooter Norman Powell. The presence of another reliable shooter will likely lead to more open looks for Mitchell, allowing him to exploit defensive lapses and contribute consistently to Miami's scoring efforts. Mitchell's evolution is a testament to the importance of adaptability in professional sports. As he continues to refine his game, the Heat hope his blend of elite defense and newfound offensive skills will play a crucial role in their pursuit of success this season. At the same time, the Heat aren't bad enough to be viewed as a lock-in for a lottery team in the 2026 NBA draft. This is nothing new, as the Heat are almost trapped in their own success, and the problem could be their head coach, Erick Spoelstra. Ira Winderman suggests taking the Brad Stevens approach with Erick Spoelstra. Spoelstra has been a part of the Heat since 1995 and took over as the team's head coach in 2008. Since then, Coach SPO has helped the Heat win 2 NBA championships in 6 trips to the finals. Obviously, there's no doubt about Spoelstra's talent. But Heat insider Ira Winderman feels that's exactly why the franchise needs to relieve SPO of his coaching duties and promote him to an executive role. I think they're almost trapped in their success. I would move Erick Spoelstra up into the executive suite like the Celtics did with Brad Stevens, Winderman said, via SiriusXM NBA radio. He added, "Get a coach, we see it in Washington and other places, who knows he's not going to win right away, but is going to build toward something. The problem is that Erick Spoelstra is too good to lose." That's certainly true, as even with mediocre rosters, Spoelstra has produced fabulous results for the Heat. But it's high time for the franchise to embrace a true rebuild. Moreover, Winderman's suggestion was to keep SPO in the organization, possibly as a replacement for Pat Riley. Ira Winderman compares the Miami Heat to the reality TV show Chopped. While the Heat have a dynamic duo in Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo, along with a young star in Nikola Jovic, it's hard to see the team coming out of the East next season. A realistic finish would be in the play-in tournament. Coming back to Winderman's point, he compared the Heat to a popular reality TV show, Chopped on the Food Network. I always refer to the Heat as the show Chopped on the Food Network. They give them a basket of garbage, where they give them snail knuckles and used peanut butter, and they say make a dish, and somehow they still do. That's Erick Spoelstra. Erick Spoelstra is taking day-old bread and still turning it into a playoff team, the Heat expert continued. Winderman concluded with his 2 cents on the current state of the Heat, saying, "Do I think they should have taken a step back? Absolutely. Is it in their DNA to take a step back? Not with the way they have it. It will be interesting to see if the Heat will follow Winderman's advice or continue to salvage the best results they can with their current team."